Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to, I guess, an epilogue to a prior budget hearing the Transportation Environment Subcommittee on Appropriations held. We had to leave the budget hearing, the House side, before we heard from the Maryland Port Administration because of a House floor session, and we didn't want to hold the Senate up, so we let them sort of continue with the formal budget briefing, budget hearing. This does not replace that. They had the budget hearing. They got the presentation from Caleb Weiss, our DLS analyst. We've all had the opportunity to read the analysis. We don't need to sort of go through that in detail here, but I know members wanted the opportunity to interact with the new executive director of the Maryland Port Administration for two reasons. One, he's new or relatively new, so people have not had a lot of chance to interact with him. And two, obviously, we don't have the opportunity for sort of informal hallway conversations or in-office meetings. So it seemed like a good idea, since we weren't able to sort of finish our work at the budget hearing, to have this follow-on meeting. So with that, I'll turn it over to the Maryland Port Administration, as well as anybody from MDOT. We're joined by the Deputy Secretary. Thank you, Deputy Secretary Powell, for being here. And I see CFO Jacqueline Hartman is on, but I'll throw it over to Bill Doyle at the port for any comments he wants to make. And then if we can take some questions, if folks have them, and then we can call it a day. So with that, Mr. Doyle, the floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Coleman. If it's okay, I'd like to pause for just a second to see if Deputy Secretary Powell has any, introductory comments or of that nature. So, if that's okay, sir, could I do that?
Yeah. Thank you, Bill. Mr. Chairman, I wasn't sure if you wanted me to go through our general opening remarks that we did for the previous budget hearing, or just have Bill do a briefing. So I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah, I think we can just hear from the executive director. We can all watch the video if we want to go back and see the formal the formal presentation, if that's
okay.
Right.
Outstanding. I did want to note that for Madam Vice Chair, that yesterday we did send the links to the monorail feasibility study, and it went to your entire committee. So, if you have, obviously, I think in the email, Ms. Einhorn said if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. So just let us know.
I do want to acknowledge that I got the feasibility study.
Good.
Already engaging with my local transportation reporter on that. So
okay, great. Yeah, we look forward to, if you have any questions, we'll make sure we get the right person to answer those for you. So I'm glad you received those.
And I tweeted it, so now it's an official transportation issue in the state of Maryland political world. So,
great.
With that, can we turn to Director Powell? Director Doyle.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you. Let the record reflect. My name is William Doyle, Bill Doyle, and I'm the Executive Director at the Maryland Port Administration. So I'm going to summarize a few things. You do have my written remarks, and first of all, thank you for taking the time. I am a people person. I wish I could really get out there and meet with you individually, and meet with the committee, and come in and have that face-to-face conversation. That will happen, as soon as we get COVID under control with the vaccinations and things of that nature. So what I do want to say is that we're in an execution phase here at the Port of Baltimore, Maryland Port Administration. We have several projects that are underway. We're beyond the planning, we're beyond the permitting, and we're going to execute for the next year, absolutely. And then with respect to the Howard Street Tunnel, we would hope that would be operational by 2024. So what I'll do is I'll go through a few of the major projects that we're working on in the execution phase. Number one is the Howard Street Tunnel. And we did on Friday, when we had the original budget meeting at 2:46 p.m., we received the signed environmental assessment from the Federal Railroad Administration. We spent the weekend putting together the rollout plan, website, dedicated email address, and we got all of that information out on Monday. So that's live. The comment period started March 1st. It will go through March 30th. Good news on that. The next portion is the Seeger Marine Terminal. So at Seeger Marine Terminal, again, that's part of the public-private partnership that we have with Ports America Chesapeake. There are a couple of things going on. As we speak, the dredging for Siegert Berth 3 is underway. And as part of the public-private partnership, that's a $10 million plus cost ticket item that the MPA, the state of Maryland, is responsible for. That dredging right now is 52% done. So we're 52% done with that dredging. We expect to be done within the next, completed 100% within the next 45 days or so. Contemporaneously with the dredging, there is berth reconstruction going on at the Siegert Marine Terminal for 3 and 4, berths 3 and 4, the interconnectivity there. That construction and reconstruction is being handled by Ports America Chesapeake under their P3 agreement. And I believe all said and done, when you're looking at that reconstruction and a portion of what's known as pocket dredging, which the MPA is not responsible for, PAC is, that's in the range of $55 million that Ports America will be is paying for. While all that's going on, we have 4 new super ultra post-Panamax cranes that will come into the Port of Baltimore. Due to COVID and the delays associated there, these cranes are being manufactured overseas. We're looking at somewhere summertime, toward the end of summertime, where those cranes will come up the Chesapeake and into the Port of Baltimore. That'll be a big to-do. I'd like to invite all of you, anybody in the state legislature. We'll get the tugboat companies and everybody involved with seeing those come in, but that's what we're looking at. And hopefully by the end of the year, first quarter 2022, the Seeger berth 3 and 4 will be able to operate, load and unload 2 simultaneous ultra post-Panamax ships. That's what you call 14,000 TEU container ships. Those are the largest ships that can fit through the Panama Canal. And we'll be able to service 2 of those at the same time. Now, people say, all right, well, that's 2. We still have 2 other berths. So you can still have 4 ships being unloaded and loaded at the same time. They won't be of that size, but we can still do the 8s and the 4s that we have right now coming in. All right, so that's Seeger berth 3. We're also in the execution phase right now on Dundalk Marine Terminal 3. Now, Dundalk, for folks who don't know, that's where we do all of our automobiles. And row. Row means roll on, roll off. That's where we get the cargo. Those are the ships, those big box ships that come in. They look like a big, huge box. They throw the ramps down and you drive the cargo on and off the ship, or you use some other vehicle that could drive the cargo on and off the ship. That's about a $34 million project. That is underway. That's shed removals. That is berth reconstruction. Also dealing with some dredging in and around Colgate Creek. And then finally, and like I said, these aren't all the projects we have going on, but this is the laser focus of the NPA. The next project would be Mid-Bay. Now, Mid-Bay, that's subject to some federal funding, some federal authorizations. And as you know, recently we just finished the construction of Poplar Island. So, and I've had these questions before, and I want you guys to understand what that means. Construction being final on Poplar Island doesn't mean we're not going to use Poplar Island anymore. What that means is that the outline of Poplar Island, what I would say the perimeter of Poplar Island, is fully constructed. Now you get to put in the dredge material. So when we do our dredging and we pump off, you have the fence, call it the fence, the construction fence, where the dredge material will go in. And that dredge material will be going into Poplar Island and creating that, land reclamation, island rebuilding for the next 10 years. With that, we'll get the Mid-Bay going as well. We expect to get the financing from that, from the federal government. Our federal delegation, congressmen and senators are on board. I believe that the administration will see it that way under the Biden administration, that this is an important project. We live and die by dredging in Maryland. Port of Baltimore, and that it's absolutely critical that we get the Mid-Bay project going. From the environmental standpoint, it's like a barrier reef island. It helps with coastal restoration. It helps with storms that come in. Sir, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to pause there. Those are the major projects that we have going on right now. I can answer some questions from you in the committee, but let me stop there for right now, sir.
Great, thank you for the update. On the Howard Street Tunnel, I think the federal government, I think it's an infra grant, was on hold pending the EA. Now that the EA is out, do you know when you expect that money to start to flow?
Yeah, so what we will do is once the EA is complete, so let me just explain that you have a 30-day comment period. Once the 30-day comment period is over, it's a little bit different from the way that this EA works or an EIS works. It's not like a pipeline. When you build a pipeline, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission takes the whole thing over. We as the NPA actually step into the shoes of the Federal Railroad Administration. We will collect the comments. That's why we have the dedicated website. We'll get the comments together. Once we collect all the comments, we have to sit down with CSX and the Federal Railroad Administration, go into those comments, incorporate those comments into the EA again, and then we would sit down and go through signing the actual federal infra grant. Let me pause right there, sir, because I have Brad Smith on the phone. He is my here at the NPA. He is the expert. He's been involved with this since the beginning. And Brad, anything that I missed, please jump in right now.
Yeah, just to add to that, yeah, so we're in the comment period now. We will assemble any of the comments that we receive, compile that into the final NEPA document, which we expect to be a finding of no significant impact. Once the Federal Railroad Administration signs that document, we will be complete with NEPA. FRA has indicated they will not sign our infra grant agreement until we are complete with NEPA. So we expect NEPA to be complete in the spring, in the May timeframe, and then we would very quickly after that execute the grant agreement for infra, which we expect to do prior to July 1st.
Thank you. I hope Ms. Hartman and Secretary Powell heard that the federal government doesn't like to enter agreements till NEPA is complete. I find that very interesting. Vice Chair Krim, questions from you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So one of the items you were asked to comment on by DLS was the impact of COVID on the port's operations. Would you like to make those comments?
Yes, I'd be happy to make those comments. Now, what I'm going to do is I'll just summarize where they are. They are in my remarks, and if you have any comments or questions as a follow-up, please don't hesitate. All right, COVID, like most ports, devastated the international trade, especially from the period of February to say May or June. Okay. What we did see here in the Port of Baltimore is we started bouncing back in May on the autos side. Okay. Up until May, the Port of Baltimore, Dundalk Marine Terminal, and the streets around there was used as a parking lot because the dealerships were closed in the mid-Atlantic. So with the dealerships closed, we were taking vehicles off the vessel, leaving them in the port, and they were not getting over to the dealerships. And that caused a congestion and vessel bunching and cars not coming in and out of the port. In May, we started to see that bump up off the lows. In June, we saw that with the containers. So we started seeing the off the lows in June, and then that carried on throughout the remainder of the year. Now, what we've seen with respect to COVID and with respect to congestion in general, and this is even before the Howard Street Tunnel or the 50-foot berth is completed, is that Baltimore is a very unique port for containers in the sense that Maryland has set this port up in this region to be an e-commerce hub. And with being an e-commerce hub and using Trade Point Atlantic and the distribution, fulfillment, and sorting centers that are nearby port, you can go down the Browning Highway, you can go right off the port, and you see the Amazon's fulfillment centers. with everybody at home during COVID and buying online, what we started to see is ships that were not normally scheduled on a routine schedule for Baltimore begin to get diverted to Baltimore. And it was significant. The latest number now, so if we take from mid-July until mid-March, because we have the forward-looking schedule, mid-March 2021, we're up to 17 container ships that normally would not come to Baltimore are coming to Baltimore to the tune of 22,000 TEU. That's 20-foot equivalent units. That's a container, a 20-foot container. So we're doing well coming off the COVID. Now, from health and safety standpoint, we really have to hand it to the ILA. They took this very seriously. The personal hygiene, the cleanliness, the mask wearing, the glove wearing, the PPE, they've taken it very seriously. And my operations folks and maintenance folks down at the port here at the MPA, tremendous job. They did not stop. They took it very seriously. And we have, for all intents and purposes, if you look at the West Coast, they completely had to shut down operations to a drip because their longshoremen were getting sick. Our longshoremen have really stepped up here. So from that standpoint, things are good. On the cruise line side, I don't know what's going to happen. What I can tell you is this. It seems every 30 days or so, we'll get a notice from Carnival Cruise Lines, Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, that they keep punting the opening date of cruises. And right now we're looking at May of 2021. I expect it to go longer, not because people don't want to cruise out of Baltimore, but because the dynamics of getting a cruise ship up and running, getting the personnel on board, getting the ratings from the Philippines on board in the United States through customs, the expense associated, this is going to begin in Florida and Florida only first. You have to take a cruise ship. You have to do a cruise to nowhere. And that's with a limited skeleton crew. So the cruise ship companies will go out of probably Port Canaveral. That's the one they're picking. It'll be a dead ship. They'll bring the crew, the skeleton crew out, bring it out for 4 days, come back in, get tested, see if it works, then put the whole crew on, go out again without any passengers, bring the ship back in, test everyone. Then maybe we'll start getting passengers on a volunteer basis first, and then paying customers thereafter. So I can't tell you right now whether we're going to be operating cruise ships out of Baltimore in 2021, but we are working day in and day out with our cruise ship company partners and also CLIA, the Cruise Line International Association. So we have a road ahead of us on the cruise ship side, folks.
Okay.
And I'll pause there.
All right, thank you. You may have said this, so on the Howard Street Tunnel, how long will that construction take after you get approvals?
From break ground, if we were to break ground this summer, we're looking at 2024 for full operation. Yes.
Okay. And do you sanitize containers when they come in? Is there any way to mitigate COVID by doing that? Or do you think that's a non-issue?
It's when you say the container itself, I mean, they're coming from China and Europe. Well, I should say Southeast Asia and Europe. So they're pretty much on the open ocean for several days. Now, on the repackaging and repackaging down when a container gets unloaded, I would say that would be up to the retailer.
Oh, okay. All right.
The actual retailer. But I don't want to say it's a non-issue. It's always an issue, but I can't foresee where there's a problem myself.
Good. Vice Chair. Great. Delegate Kittleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I simply wanted to introduce myself to Administrator Doyle. I was a Deputy Secretary in the Ehrlich administration a while ago, and I will tell you that my very favorite mode was always the Port of Baltimore because it is just so fascinating. I mean, it's one of those things that most people have no idea about the size and the dynamic. The 4 new cranes you got, are those the really big ones that have the little compartment up on top?
They sure are. They will be, they're gonna be bigger than the new cranes that we have there now, the white ones. Yeah, significant. Those are the ones. Yeah.
On a tour, I actually got to go up in one and
Oh.
drive it about an inch or two. It's quite an.
You know, that's pretty good because not many people get to do that.
That's true. That's true. And the only other thing I wanted to ask, just trying to catch up on my 15-year time frame, the dredging material. I've been to Poplar Island, and that dredge, I'm sure it's coming from the middle of the bay, but the materials that are dredged from the inner harbor, I think, were contaminated to some extent, and I just was curious as to what had been done with that or still being done with that.
Great question. Hold on one second here. I mean, I've got it off the tip of my tongue, but I just want to make sure. So what we do with the dredging, I'm looking right out the window here.
Great office.
What we do with the material is we have 2 dredge management containment facilities. One is Cox Creek, one is Masonville. So that dredge material is put into these dredge containment facilities, dewatered, okay, handled, and interestingly enough, after they're dewatered and decontaminated, we are now using this material as innovative reuse of the material for commercial products such as bricks. Okay. We're using it for Ridgely Cove restoration. We're using it, and this is ongoing. So, you know, there's 2 terms that you have in dredging: beneficial use of dredge material, which is Poplar Island, where you're doing coastal restoration. And then you have innovative reuse of that material into consumer or commercial type products. And we're having a lot of success with, I think at this point right now, since July, under pilot programs, 6 Maryland companies are now testing that product for commercial use. And it's not, and every one of those products is a different product. So that's what we're doing with it. And when you take that material out and use it, that gives us more space to put in other dredge material as we dredge from, say, Trade Point Atlantic and the inner harbor here in Baltimore, out at Seeger. It creates more space. So, you know, I'm optimistic on it. I've got a background in dredging, and the response has been remarkable. Knock on wood. I hope it works. And dredge material for years used to be called valueless material. There's a value to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Kittleman. I'll just associate myself with our comments. Part of what makes our Department of Transportation so interesting is that it has all the different modes, including the port. It's a unique structure. Delegate Lewis?
I think Delegate Misker, did you have your hand up? I don't.
Yes.
I didn't mean to hop him if it's okay, Chair.
Delegate
You
Metzger?
go ahead, brother.
All right.
No,
in that
you go ahead.
Somebody.
First off, it's nice
I
to meet
prefer handsome.
You're too kind. I was just wondering, you know, there's the federal relief bill coming through, and you know, I've talked in other conversations, particularly with some of our labor leaders who are tracking this, and I imagine some money may be coming to our port as well. Would that influence your timeline on Howard Street or any other potential project if we got additional federal funding through the reconciliation bill?
Look, we'll always take additional funding, but as far as the timeline is right now, that timeline is set. The funding mechanisms are in place. Could it speed it up? I don't know. But absent any funding or something, a relief package from the federal government, we're moving forward on the schedule that we have right now, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Delegate Metzger, this is it. A lot of buildup.
Yes. Secretary Doyle, I want to welcome you to, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
You can hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Welcome. I get so excited to talk about the Port of Baltimore, but before I get into my line of comments and questions, do I pick up a Vermont accent?
Did you say Vermont?
Vermont or Massachusetts?
It's Boston. Yeah, that's right. Yes,
Okay.
Boston.
Well, I get excited to talk about the 37,000 jobs that right out of the Port of Baltimore, and I get excited about the nearly 400 million in tax revenue, and I get excited about the 139,000 jobs that we really have associated because it's connected to my district and the Dundalk terminal especially. But what I'm concerned about is I have many drivers in my district, and my office gets flooded in Essex because my office is in the back of I have a separate building in the back of my house, and it's my district office. But the drivers come by and they say, Delegate, you've got to get the port straightened out with these drivers. They're lined up along the road. And we get excited about talking about the #1 port in the country, but we're having trucks lined up down a highway. The drivers get paid by the hour. Some get paid by the load, and they waste time because they think some of the people have pick and choose kind of guys. And we need to figure out a way to get these drivers in the port and out of the port. And I've heard the numbers before, but drivers will tell you those numbers are inaccurate. So can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, what I can tell you is that we're always striving to chip away at the term that you're talking about is the turn time of a truck coming in the port and out of the port. And what I can say is that we're making progress, and I have specific examples of progress. And change is always difficult. It's kind of like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, so you might as well do. And one of those things, two of those things that have happened is, first being the port had to move the chassis off the terminal. Chassis is the trailer that the container sits on. Okay, so it's like, think of a boat, the trailer, boat, container, chassis. And the port did that a few years back. So that created more space within the terminal itself to, have more efficient movement within the terminal and places to put the containers, whether it be empty or full. Okay, so we got through that, and that was difficult. That was a difficult time. I was a federal maritime commissioner at the time, and that was a nationwide problem. Okay, now what we just recently did, and I'm saying within the last 30 days, is we made another change. And that other change is called the damaged containers. Okay, so we had a significant number of damaged containers that were on the facility at Seeger Marine Terminal. And basically the way that the damaged containers work is that Seeger Marine Terminal, PAC, they have a contract with a vendor. That vendor is Marine Response, Marine Repair Incorporated. They're an ILA company, and they would, any damaged containers that would come in, they would repair, maintenance, and put the container back into service. Well, that was taking up a lot of space on the port. So we got our heads together and said, okay, what can we do here? How do we change this? We need to open up another gate, or at least try to find another gate, but we're getting blocked by these damaged containers. We need more densification. We need more free flow. So we came up with the idea that the property across the street from Seeger Marine Terminal on Broning Highway. Now what you see is a damaged container facility is now located off dock and on the Broning Highway in that parking lot across the street from Siegert. By doing that, we're taking more of the congestion off the port, using it for the containers that are coming and going, whether that's empties or full ones. And it's also giving access to another gate. Is that the end all, save all? Of course not. Ports America is spending over $100 million on the densification program to have new gates, new terminals, new ways to move in and out. Delegate, I mean, what I can say is that we're not sitting on our hands. We're going to try to do this. We're going to try and make the experience as best we can for the truckers. And what I would throw on there additionally is that due to the weather, due to the COVID, due to the spike in containers, we were able to open up to weekend hours. So we have weekend hours now as well. When I talk to the CEOs and the operations managers from these individual trucking companies, one of the things that we run up against, even if you open it up on the weekends, is the federal hours of service. You know, how long somebody can be in a truck. So, you know, we're working through that. The East Coast is set up differently than the West Coast and the Gulf Coast. We're getting better at it. And what I mean by that is that we have individual retailers that accept cargo at their distribution centers. Up until about 5 years ago, they weren't open after 7 o'clock at night to receive, and they weren't open on the weekends to receive. So we're working with our IKEA partners, Amazon partners, to have those distribution centers opened up so that they can receive cargo from the port. And we're having a good experience with it right now, especially during this winter, you know. Go ahead, sir.
Can I suggest this? Maybe what you might want to consider is these drivers. I think if they know what's going on, they work a little bit better.
Yep.
I know many of them, and maybe if you would put some talking points just on a sheet of paper and maybe hand it to the driver as they come through the gate. And while they're sitting there, they can read and at least know what is going on and what to expect. Just a suggestion. I have in fact, I have a brother who is one of the complainers, and I was explaining to him the growing pains. And then, of course, he comes back with, you know, they got new cranes a couple of years ago, and that was supposed to alleviate it, and that never happened. So it's just some of these things that I just feel like I can't wait to meet you eyeball to eyeball, sir. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We'll do that.
Okay. Well, we're
just
rest assured. Yep. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. No, it's okay. I'm looking forward, and whatever I can do to help you, Delegate Rick Metzger is here to help you.
Okay. I certainly appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much. And we're going to continue to work on it.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody's had a
Thank
bite at the apple. Does anybody have any follow-up?
I just wanted to know if he's been to Poplar Island. Have you been there?
In the 90s, and I anticipate, I mean late 90s. I anticipate that we'll be going out there this spring. I would have gone out already in this job, but with the COVID and everything going on, you know, we'll get out there. We will.
So, Mr. Chairman, I will say that a couple years ago, before you were on the committee, we did go to Poplar Island, the subcommittee, and I think it's just me and Wendell who were there, who's left on the committee who was there. So I'm thinking that we may enjoy going. It's a beautiful day. I mean, you go out on a boat, you go out there, and they have lots of environmental projects that they do there. And the staff there is just very nice and explains everything. So I just think it would be a nice, once we're behind, we're beyond the virus, I think that just would be something nice to do for the committee. So that's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. Yes, well, look, we would do that. I don't have a problem doing that. Just a note on Poplar Island, and you guys all should pat yourselves on the back. It is world renowned. It is the premier project. When you talk about island rebuilding and restoration around the world, it was really what they're talking about. The first one was Poplar Island. It was just such it's such a success story that, the Dutch and the Belgians, claim to be the best in the world. But all they did was take our technology and our project and then, capitalize on it around the world. But they will even admit that, but for Poplar Island coming when it did in the early 90s and that turnaround, that is the template for the entire world.
Neat. Well, hopefully we'll be able to get out there before long. I think that's it for us. Mr. Administrator, thanks to you and your team and MDOT for making the extra time and carving it out. And sorry we were rushed the other day. But to my subcommittee colleagues, remember we have full committee at 1:30. So thank you all for making out the time, except for Delegate Kittleman, who already ate. Make sure you get something in your stomach between now and 1:30. And thank you all again.